But before we kick on, I want to take this opportunity to extend some heartfelt thanks to a number of organizations who made today possible. First, we must thank the Asian Racing Conference and their organizing team, notably those located here in South Africa and those in Hong Kong. Everyone at the ARC has been welcoming, responsive, and supportive, and we genuinely appreciate the ability to convey the important message of aftercare at this global event. I wish to thank Godolphin for their leadership toward the welfare of our equine athletes and the driving impetus for the creation and development of IFAR. I also need to acknowledge the great support and backing of ROR, the British Horse Racing Authority, Racing Australia, and the US Jockey Club for participating and supporting IFAR in its steering committee throughout these years. A number of our steering committee is here today in Cape Town. They'll be available for Q&A at a panel session at the end of today's forum, and they'll be here throughout the week. But now, let's get things started and move forward with our program. It's a great honor to introduce Di Arbuthnot. Di is the chair of IFAR at our steering committee and has been instrumental in the formation of this forum. In addition, Di is the chief executive of Retraining of Racehorses, ROR, British Horse Racing's official charity of the welfare of retired racehorses. Di has been directing the charity's progress since 2002, and she is a former leading lady rider, a member of the board of the Amateur Jockeys Association, the director of Sandown Park Racecourse Committee, and her role at ROR involves liaising closely with the charity's chairman, its trustees, in planning ROR strategy and leading the executive team towards the implementation of a wide range of ROR activities and second career events. Today, Di will share the IFAR vision and mission and goes into detail on the aftercare journey. Di?
Andrew, thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. Now, before I go to our first slide, which is who are we, who am I, and why have I got the huge privilege of standing here today, and it is a privilege, to talk to you all about IFAR. My day job, as Andrew's just said, is retraining of racehorses. So I became involved with that charity 18 years ago. And 2 or 3 weeks ago, we celebrated 20-year anniversary of ROR. Now, running up to that lovely awards evening, it gave me time to reflect on the challenges and how we got there all those years later. And they were challenges, make no mistake. And I was just thinking, well, maybe how did that align with IFAR and all these other countries that are trying to get aftercare programs going? There are a lot of similarities. So what would I say would be the key? And it was certainly actually engagement with our own industry, actually getting taken seriously. And I mean that. It was, well, who are you? What are you talking about? What is this aftercare message? Going back, we're talking 17, 18 years ago. What do you know about this? And so then we got a bit more lip service that maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. But there's lip service and there's action. And maybe there's still a bit of that even now, all those years later. So my message is going to be, it is about action. It's not just about talking about it. So really, and I think if I also thought another problem, apart from some parts of our industry, I'm going to touch on the trainers. Now, trainers are something I know a little bit about, having been married to one for quite a long time. And I particularly remember going to a session in Yorkshire of Yorkshire trainers. Now, for those of you that perhaps don't know Yorkshire particularly well, or Yorkshire trainers, they certainly say what they think. And they looked at me, and I remember this hostile audience of all these Yorkshire trainers saying, "You stupid woman, what are you doing here? What are you talking about? We know how to look after our horses." So actually, didn't roll on a few years. I talked to a group in Newmarket last week. Change, they were really on it. They were asking questions. They were driving. So actually, you can get there. But I think just the personal message I'm saying is that there be challenges. There are going to be challenges all the way through, and it never stops. Is it worth it? Yes, it is. Because to go back where I was about the awards, actually, it was a great evening, and I know one or two of you were there. But the stories, the elite winners, and then we had this rather odd competition called Horse Personality of the Year. We got 250 entries in a week. And do you know what was so great about that, apart from being judged by Jilly Cooper, who of course brought a bit of celeb to it? But the key with that was actually every one of those stories had helped their owner have a life. They were loving their horse. The horse was having a good time, and actually that horse had changed their lives. So that's a message to take forward. So I'm just saying, we move forward, we can all do it. So who are we? IFAR. We're a small group of like-minded people who care very passionately about giving these horses a life after racing. We're supported on our panel by the Americans, Australians, and from the UK. Small team, and we've all got day jobs, guys. This is not just our proper job. We've got day jobs. So this is something we are doing when we can. So, a little bit about our history. Now, how did we start? That was interesting, and I'm looking at Diana. Diana Cooper, we met up in Newmarket a few years ago and had a general conversation about aftercare. So what happens when they leave these shores? What does happen, she said. And I said, well, I don't know. Let's do something. Let's do something about this. In true Diana Godolphin fashion, it happened. 6 months later, we were all in Kentucky in the lovely surroundings of Jonabell, having talks for 3 days about how we were going to push this message forward. Roll on 6 months later, and we were all in Newmarket. And actually, the previous picture you saw was the team at Newmarket. Regulators, aftercare, discussion, naming. It took us half an hour to name it. But anyway, we got there. A steering group, a mission, all those things we needed to get this movement, and I'm going to call it a movement forward. And then, of course, it was actually getting that message out. So how did we get that message out? We pushed it out, and that's through these forums, and that's where we are today. The forum, it's moved forward by these discussions and forums and being at somewhere like we are today. And I think we were asked to Japan, I'm just thinking about 3 years ago maybe. So Japan really got on message and moved forward. Then in Korea last year, again, Korea have taken that message and moving forward. And actually I was thinking also about Europe, and particularly the French have really got on board and driven it out. So is it working? Yes, it is, but there's so much more to do. So the message is, yes, and it is the forums. What did we really do? What message did we really take out of Washington? And apart from to thank the Americans for giving us that platform in those very early days, that got us out to the Americas. Then we went to Korea. That got it out to the Asian community. And then to Oslo last year to really get through to all those countries in Europe. What's our mission? To promote the care of the thoroughbred horses during their lifetime. A mission that you will all know, a mission that has come out today in a press release from our Horse Welfare Board, an independent board at home, which I'm sure you will all be picking up on your phones very shortly. And I know the Australians have also set up an independent board to do the same. So there is movement, and this is the mission, lifetime care. So what is our mission? It's to raise awareness globally, the importance of the welfare of the horse. How do we do that? Well, we're doing that with our newsletters, with communication, with getting out to all parts of the industry to push this message forward. We're exchanging information, we're using social media, all those ways to get this message out. To develop a network, how are we going to do that? Well, we're developing networks everywhere we go. We're talking to people. We must make this a movement. Education, the key word. Now, what does education in this form really mean? I think you need to start at the beginning of aftercare. And where does it start? It's that movement from the owner. Isn't it the owner's responsibility? Isn't that what we're talking about here? This is what we've got to drive. And we can help here. You know, we've set up initiatives at home. We can all do that. We provide assessment. You can have websites. You can have helplines. You can have lists of retrainers. You can do all these things to help these owners make the right decision. Because you know, as I do, if those owners make the decision, the right decision at stage 1, that horse will have a home for life. If they make the wrong decision, that's when they can slip down the slippery slope and become vulnerable and need help. We're trying to avoid that. Success for these organizations is about these horses having a good home, not being down there and giving racing a bad name. How else are we educating? We've got to educate the general public. So how are we going to do that? Now, I know lots of countries, as we do, we have parades at racecourses. I have real racecourse envy when I look at what they do in Deauville. Do you know what they do in Deauville? They stop racing for this. They have things going on in between races. We're sort of getting a bit of that. And maybe there's bringing a well-known horse to a racecourse and having it in a stable, because the general public want to get up close to these horses. So there's that way of conveying the message, there's a life after racing. We know there's a whole load of people out there that think these horses don't have any life. We need to change that. So also, of course, you've got to remember these horses are going to homes. You've got to educate and help the people that take them on. You can't just promote a horse and say, okay, take it on. No, we're there to help you. So you might wake up in the morning and think, what have I done? And I'm saying, there's help out there. There's people you can contact. There's a number. There's help. There's club nights. There's all those things you can put on to help that area. So providing opportunities. I touched on earlier about my Yorkshire trainers. One particular Yorkshire trainer, apart from calling me stupid clearly, he said, well, I suppose you could promote them. And that was, let's face it, the key message, isn't it? We are going to provide opportunities for these horses. For those horses that are suitable, and I don't think there's some that aren't, a very few are not suitable. Some can't make that transition. They might mentally not be able to do it or need perhaps a lot of medication. Those horses aren't suitable. The ones that are, provide opportunities. In every equestrian discipline, whatever it is, at all levels, you need to help at the elite end. So you've got to recognize success when these lovely top professionals take these horses on and really win big competitions. So we provide all that. But you also have to recognize that it's the grassroots that really a lot of those riders are going to be taking those horses on. Do you know how important a pair of socks are or a rosette? It's really important to these people. And they're looking after these horses. They love these horses. They're feeding their horses better than they feed themselves. They're in better accommodation. I'm going to keep saying this message all the way through. Tell the story. We do it well. These people look after the horses all the way through. So provide opportunities at every level, all the time, and then tell the story. Why is it time to do something? we need to recognize that you have to do more. Everybody has to do more. So we're going to hear a bit more about how new countries that wanting to do something can help with this. You're going to hear about this from Dr. Forbes quite shortly. The equestrian world views these, they prefer sport horse world. We've got to change that. These horses, I remember, or I've heard from history a long time ago, that these horses are top in so many disciplines. We need to get that message out. So how can we change people's opinions? We can with all the things I'm talking about. So let's try. And what happens when these horses leave? Again, you're going to hear about traceability from another one of our speakers today. So blue sky. I love this word, blue sky. What does it really mean? It's probably complete rubbish. But it's actually what we really want to achieve. We want every horse that leaves the industry to have a nice home. We want the public perception of our sport to really grip what we're trying to do. We've got to change people's attitudes. We need to do this by telling the story. We look after our horses well, talk about it. So my conclusion, it is the entire racing industry's responsibility for the welfare of the thoroughbred horse. We need to lead the way. There's no racing if we fall short of welfare and aftercare. We owe it to the horse. I've also added to this that, all the way through, from these horses being bred, through training and aftercare, people care. Talk about it. If we don't talk about it, we're going to lose the industry we love so much. Thank you all so much for listening.
No, thank you very much, Di, for laying out that vision. And I think it's helpful to know that through IFAR, aftercare is not just a domestic matter. So everybody here that goes back home and has questions and has challenges, just so you know that there's other people who are thinking this way as well. So this group is always available to, to answer your emails, to be on the other side of the phone, and to explain how aftercare evolved in our home countries and what can be done, the lessons that can be learned, and things that can be improved. So I think that's a good takeaway message as well.